Crazy wild story.
Roll it.
Jason Bates.
So one of the first times when I walk on the yard, I walk out there, and your first day in the pen is nerve wracking. You don't know you don't know what you're gonna see. You don't know what you're getting into. I'm a 6'2.5", 165-pound white boy.
You've obviously been working out since then.
Just a hair. Eating a little bit. But I walk out there, and there's this dude they call The Rock, right? And
hell yeah.
Like I see all of these bikes coming down the walk, and I'm like, what the hell is the bikes for, right?
You were at Rayburn?
Yeah.
Okay.
All the free people are coming down on bikes and shit like that, and I kind of come out the gate because I see them turning that way, so I'm going to get out their way and move out there, and all of a sudden, I see this dude that's probably, I don't know, 6'2", 265, solid, just rock muscle, just got his thing out, and looking at a tower that's probably 150 yards away from him, right?
Yeah.
And he thinks this woman up there, and I didn't notice at the time. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? He's just out there just pulling on it, right?
Strumming the old balloon.
Coming to find out, he thinks he's built a relationship with this guard in his head that she's looking at him from the tower wanting him to do this.
Oh, shit.
And he had just got out the block like 2 weeks ago from doing the same exact thing to the same tower.
Repeat offender.
I'm like, what the fuck have you got yourself into, Jay?
Welcome to jail.
Welcome to prison.
Oh, shit.
Here we go.
I told a story like this a couple weeks ago, but my story was a guy, and he hopped in a 55-gallon drum, and he was gunning to the mop. They had a mop up there.
Look, and that there's a crew, and once you go to prison, you realize this. It's something called the JOAs, right? It's the jack-off artists. They come up with
Tank Crusaders.
Like they got
church pullers.
You can't have your jacket sleeve. Like you got to have your hands out of your jacket sleeves when you're walking, because they found a way to where they take their jacket, put their arm inside their jacket, and have that jacket holding it with this hand. So you think they're walking down, the whole time they're pulling on it.
Oh, hell.
And they finally realized that, and that's when I realized you're in a different space with some different individuals. You may be labeled as a criminal, but these are real fucking criminals.
Got some wild ones up in here.
What about the guys in church when you're in there to catch a good time with the Lord, and you're in there, you feeling the vibes and everything, and then you got old Tony and Mike over there in the corner sitting next to each other, and both of them are strumming their little feet like this. And you're like, dang, man, they got some nervous energy over there. Come to find out, they got strings tied to their peckers and toes.
Come look, or that might have been his punk. You know? I mean that was
the meetup spot, dude. That's crazy.
And I should have been aware of all this shit. Like I come from a family full of convicts. You know what I mean? My dad
got
was
like the cliff notes on it before you
something,
went.
right? No, that wasn't the case. You just blindsided by this.
I don't think you can prepare a human being that's never been to prison for prison until you get to prison. You could hear all the wild eps and the stories and everything like that, but it's not until you actually enter the space. You get to see it for the first time, and you're like, wow. You know, it's like when you go to New York. You hear about New York all your life, and you just see it in the picture, right?
Yep.
And then you finally get there, and you're like, wow. And it's nothing like what you thought it was going to be.
But instead of big billboards, you have dudes blowing loads to towers, I guess.
Hey.
Skyscrapers.
There's so many rules, dude. If you sat down and wrote a rule book for prison, bro, I don't think you could. I mean, if you gave it to somebody, they would think you were making shit up.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, I'm here for the stories now.
Hey, dude, it's unbelievable, bro. It changed me in a way that you rarely change people, bro. You know,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see a different perspective of what you think you are compared to what like real gangsters are.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I was no real gangster. I may have portrayed myself as one when I was a little stupid young idiot.
Likewise.
But there's some real gangsters out there, and that's what you got to...
You got to live amongst them.
Yes, indeed.
And navigate and try to figure out how to befriend them so you don't get on their bad side.
And coming from a young man that went to prison young that didn't have leadership in his family, or didn't have that quality of man structure to kind of give you the ins and outs of how a man was supposed to act.
Right.
You learn real quick, respect is a must.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
if it ain't, you gonna find out real quick. You're gonna spend your times.
You think that that's like one of the like not having that, like, I guess, that male structure, or like just like kind of like maybe a male role model / leader, like that's maybe one of the reasons how you end up where you end up sometimes?
Well, we're about to actually talk about that.
Let's get it.
Let's lead into it.
Let's get it
What's
in.
going on, everybody? This is Scott with Penitentiary's The Penthouse Podcast. To my left is your best friend in real estate, Bout It Beatty. And on the right, got Mr. Jason Bates. Another one who thinks he's from the best bank they call the Westbank. Where are you from over there?
Gretna, Louisiana.
Gretna, right?
Shout
Where
out.
Wasn't that where the sheriff's office is?
There's
Or the police department or
the
jail?
Harry Hilton. Yeah,
Harry Hilton.
that's what they call it.
Oh,
Lee.
Harry.
Harry
Yeah, Harry Lee. I've heard some stories about that jail. I've only been in there to work before, not as a CO.
I've never been in it.
And as in my interpreting role, but never as an inmate. I don't think I'd want to go there. Although I've been to some bad places, but I just hear a lot of stories about Jefferson Parish. Don't ever want to go in there.
Actually, I never hit the system. In
That's because
Jefferson
you
Parish.
actually a transplant. You're old Bogalousian.
Well, it's kind of a little bit more than that. I grew up in New Orleans up until I was about 14 or 15
Uptown,
years old.
downtown, mid-city?
Well, I say New Orleans, Metairie. I grew up
Metairie. Where at?
right there off Severn and 43rd by
Yeah,
Rummel.
man. All right. So, that's where I was born in Metairie at Lakeside Hospital. Lived in Harahan until I was about 10, and then all my family lived in Metairie and Kenner off of Bonneville, and then, in fact, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law have Bear's Po' Boy right there at Severn and Metairie Road.
I go there on a regular
Well,
basis.
when you go in there, you tell them Big Huff sent you want alligator sausage po' boys.
Will do. Will do. I never
Her name's Chrissy. She's my wife's twin. She looks just like her. So if you see somebody who looks like Scott's wife, that's her.
I'm definitely going to go in there and try to get me a free po' boy.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say free.
Whoa.
Brother-in-law, I didn't do that to you.
Support your local
Yeah,
businesses.
nah, I'm just joking. Anyways, Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself. We know where you're from. Tell us about where you moved and what your upbringing was like. Just a short synopsis and what led you to prison.
Grew up, like I said, till I was about 14 or 15, right there in Metairie. Grandmother got sick. We ended up moving to Bogalousian, a little small town, 65 miles north. Everybody knows it for the paper mill. So, moved to that place, and that's a whole different lifestyle. You move from just 65 miles away. You would think, oh, it's not that. That's a world of difference, man. I mean,
If I'm not mistaken, the sign in sign language for Bogalousian is with a B.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean,
I think that's the sign for it, but go ahead.
But so moved there. Had a couple relatives there. All they did was hunt, fish. We did that, played ball. All I ever did was grow up with a ball in my hand. It didn't matter what ball it was.
Oh, okay.
It didn't matter. We wanted to play ball. Coming from New Orleans, that's all you do. I mean, especially growing up in Shrewsbury right there. I mean, you didn't have nothing else to do.
Go outside.
It's right there off of Jefferson, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, being the only white boy in Shrewsbury, you better know
Yeah,
how
I
to
was
play
fixing
ball.
to ask.
Yep, the concrete jungle. But I mean, it shaped you in a way to kind of you deal with other things.
Yeah.
You know, I always looked at it coming up. I'm like, damn, why I had to have such a hard life? But now you look back on it, that makes you who you are. You know, different people you hang out with, whether it's black, white, Chinese, Muslim. You grew up with everybody in the city. Now you move to Bogalousian, there's one type of person. You know what I mean? And it's
Really?
one way, right? Everything is a group, right? If you're not a part of that group, then you're kind of shunned and outcast. Being from a small town like that of 29,000 people, my dad being in prison, half of the people there work at the prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like everybody
Angie?
knows your business.
Yeah.
You know, so all the kids knew that my dad was a convict. You know what I'm saying? So I was already kind of one step behind. You know, I didn't hang out with the kids whose parents worked at the prison because my dad was in prison.
The other side. Yeah.
Everything was kind of like clicked up when it comes to Bogalousian. And for the most part, it's still like that. You know, if you were somebody, it didn't matter if you got in trouble. It didn't matter what you did. You could get out of it. If you didn't know nobody, you got in trouble, they were going to run you through the ringer.
Right.
Now, let me say this. I needed to be run through the ringer because I was a shithead. You know what I
Right.
mean? What led me to prison was thinking I was more than who I was, whether it was doing drugs, selling drugs. There was nothing else there for kids.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, either you worked at the paper mill, you had to know somebody. Either you worked at the prison, you better know somebody. Or you had to drive 60, 70, 80 miles, right? I was telling him before, I grew up with both my parents, neither one of them made more than $25,000 a year. My mom was a hairdresser on the side. She drew disability because she had kidney problems. So it was do whatever you can to get along. I mean, I remember growing up in New Orleans, my mom would get me up at 5 o'clock, put me in the back of the car, drive to Tasty Donuts. I would sleep on the sugar that was stacked up in the back room until it was time for me to walk across the street to El Delon School. I'd go to school, get home, walk to Cleary Playground, and she would be at work at AutoZone. So from 5 to 10 at night, she was working,
Right.
you know? So there was very little structure there, which, I mean, she didn't have much of a choice.
Yeah, she had to
But
do
the
what she
same
had to
thing
do.
happened when we moved to Bogalousian. It was just that I got with, I wouldn't say I was the wrong group. Like once you become,
You brought that Westbank stuff with you.
well,
No, I'm just
it
joking.
was, I already had some little cousins that was, you know, not doing the right thing. And that all comes from a lack of leadership in your life, man. I think fatherless homes is probably the biggest thing that's wrong with our society now, and the way that they talk about what a real man's supposed to be. You know, the influence a real man has in his child's life, especially on a little boy.
Right. Damn. So you get to school. Now you get to Bogalousian. So what kind of brought you in? Let's talk about what brought him into the system.
So
Well, when you were on the street, what were you just? Or was it drugs or was it?
Little mixed bag, a little bit of everything.
drugs, selling drugs, doing drugs.
Getting caught multiple.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It was.
Well, let me
Doing
ask you this. This is what I meant to say. Did your parents do drugs?
My dad was
Dad?
paying pills. Got busted for writing fake prescriptions.
So you kind of grew up and that's what you saw. And
When he died, the doctor told my mom that my dad was taking between 60 and 75 Lortabs a day.
Good Lord.
that'll tear a hole in your stomach. Wow.
Yeah, they had him on count for writing over 21,000 fake prescriptions.
Now, did you have a good relationship with him?
With who?
With your father?
No.
No.
Very little, if any. It was when he was there. I mean, he was in and out of prison. He did a long jose right before I was born, and then it was 2.5 to 5 years stints. And get out for a year, go back. Get out for 2 years, go back. My dad was a full-blown con artist. No shit. I mean, he'd get a job hanging sheetrock for somebody. He'd become a foreman. They'd give him a company truck.
Thanks for the
And
truck.
You could bank on it. 3 months later, he was going to slip and fall. He already had a lawyer on dock. You know what I mean? He would sue for $70,000, $80,000, blow out all that money, and then he would be at a level to where he was back doing what he was doing before. So it was just a consistent thing. You would have thought that I would look at that and say, hey, I don't want to do that. But I wouldn't say in my defense, but it's the only thing you see. It's what you see is what you know. I mean, you're not growing up as a kid like that, looking at other people saying, hey, look, I can go be a doctor, because that's not what you really believe. You may say that, but that's not what you believe when you come from places like that.
Right.
It's rare. You hear stories about people that are like, oh, my parents are this and my parents are that, and I decided to do this. That's actually a rarity, man. Most of the kids that grow up and they have to be in that environment, whatever situation it is, typically gravitate towards that same behavior that they watch when they grow up.
Exactly.
And that has affected them greatly. That's the larger majority of folks in that situation. There are people that make it out and become a success without having to go down the routes that we have, right?
Yep.
But the majority of the story is we emulate the behavior that we see when we grow up.
Product of your environment.
Every day.
Apple in the tree.
That's it.
Yeah. So, at what age did you wind up going to prison?
Between 19 and 20.
So you probably stacked up several charges back to back, and then,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's how we usually do it. And that was in Washington Parish.
Yep. So ended up breaking a guy's jaw, busted him up pretty bad. I had a couple other drug charges along with it. Got out on probation. While out on probation, ended up catching another charge for fighting, beating a guy up. My sister died when I was like 17 years old, and there's this big thing behind her dying. I guess, the guy that they say had the relation, well, the guy that ran her off the road, me and him didn't see too highly of each other. I felt like they had a ring in my wife's my family. It's the only thing we ever had valuable, right? Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't give the ring back. So one night, we had just got back from Boys Town, New Mexico. We took a buddy of mine's handicap van. His mom drove a handicap van for people at Southeastern. And they went out on a cruise, so we had the bright idea we're going to take this handicap van and go to Boys Town, New Mexico, and load up on Quaaludes and Xanaxes, right?
Yeah.
What else you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean,
you got enough space.
Right? We wanted to see the donkey show. Yeah. But so we do that. We get back. We end up, get rid of the stuff we had, and we go out that Friday night, and I just so happened to see this dude at the bar. He's with this other chick. I know the chick he's with.
While you're on Valiums?
Yes, and Rohypnols.
Oh, tripping falls.
And tequila. So I see this chick and I ask her, I say, where you get that ring at? She tells me, hey, this guy gave it to me. I said, really? That's my sister's ring. I tell her what's in the inside of it, and she takes it off, looks at it, and I could tell by her face that she didn't know what that ring was, right?
Right.
So me and him end up getting into it in the bar. I throw a cue ball at him. They kick us out. Well, the Rohypnols and Valiums is not going to let you just leave that alone.
Hell
right?
no.
So I end up going to the dude's house, hit him with a shotgun a couple times. Look, and I'm going to tell you, really, I wanted to kill him. Everything in me was like, hey, I'm going to kill him, but it just didn't work out. Like, luckily, I didn't pull the trigger. I just hit him with the shotgun a couple of times. So that kind of added on to it, and that's when the judge said, yeah, that's enough.
So they hit you with aggravated battery?
Yeah. Aggravated. They ended up dropping it down to a second-degree battery with a deadly weapon, but, I mean, it is what it is, stacked on top of all them charges. So, I mean, probably best thing ever happened to me, no doubt.
So, you're 19?
Yeah.
19. So, young man goes into the parish prison, then they ship you off to Rayburn first?
Oh, no, I went to Cottonport.
Oh, wow.
Well, first I went to Hunts, which they put me in this boot camp. But it was kind of messed up, though. Went all the way through the boot camp, right? And then they figure out, oh, wait, you can't go through boot camp. You got a violent charge.
Right.
So I've did all of this through boot camp. Have you ever heard of Hunt's boot camp?
Yeah,
and
it's a 6-month program.
And what do they do? They train you to go like serve the country or something?
No.
No, not quite, buddy.
Okay.
They train you to be like the military. You have to walk, talk, and act like you. The only thing is you don't get to necessarily get out and go to the military.
They humble you very quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's boot camp instructors. So if you've ever seen the movies with Army.
Major Payne.
Yeah, Major Payne, of course. So you got a guy like Damon Wayans out there talking to all the young men, and I mean they blow you down and treat you like you're in boot camp. I mean for 6 months, and I get the design, right? Break you down, build you up.
Yep.
I had a couple buddies that went through. I never got offered that program, but yeah, I mean it's. A lot of the guys that I know that went through it worked for a good bit of time. They either made it for a while or you didn't. You know what I mean?
I just think at that young of an age,
it's hard.
It is. You're not really changing the hearts. You might change their mind for a little bit and get them, but it's in a controlled environment, right? You never get to see if what they're doing is actually working, because once they get out, 99% of them not going to. Keep the same
course,
structure, and
I think the difference between a military boot camp and a court ordered boot camp is this: people who go to the military go willingly.
Yeah.
So they know they signed up for boot camp. They're there to be
all you can be.
Right. They're there to serve the country with their in mind. Guys who go to boot camp, they're there because they offered you 12 years and they sent you to a 6-month boot camp and you have to make it so you don't have to back up that 12 years.
That's exactly right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yes, I can behave for 6 months. Does that mean when I get out, I've had a like
you're just going to be like a jacked up 20-year-old now.
That's it.
Right.
That's all.
You're just gonna be like, well, now I have endurance.
That's all you are. That's all you are. That's it. You know.
I get the idea behind it.
I do too.
But like he said, the people that I know that have gotten out of prison they had a heart transplant.
Yep.
Not a physical heart transplant, but just a heart change. Your heart has to change.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then also they a certain amount of maturity and spirituality come into, you know.
You have to have a purpose, man.
Yeah.
I was telling him before the podcast, coming from that small town, there was never no purpose. Like, you either worked at the paper mill or you worked at the prison.
Yeah.
I mean, what purpose is that? You know, I feel like you're just being enslaved in another way or incarcerated in another way every day, because there's nothing. I mean, to me, there's nothing gratifying about that. Now, if that's people want to live like that, I'm fine with that. That wasn't something that interested me. You know what I mean? So I wanted something bigger and something better than that, and it just seemed like I went about it the wrong way at first. You know.
We looked up to Pablo Escobar instead of Bill Gates.
That's it.
I get it.
Well, I was telling him, man. I said, it's embarrassing. Like it used to be embarrassing when I tell people this. Like, when I met my wife and she told me my dad's an engineer, I said, he drives a train.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Like that's how. I mean,
This is coming out of prison, though, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I probably would have thought that a couple years ago too, though.
And
you know what I mean?
and this is like, when I say an engineer, I didn't know who that was. You knew who an architect was because you've heard that word before.
Right.
You know they design these big, elaborate, fancy buildings, right?
Yeah.
But engineers, I mean, you could be civil, structural, hydraulic.
All of them, yeah.
But I didn't know what that was.
No.
Dude. Had no clue until, you know, I met my wife and her father and kind of got in. See, damn, I thought, I want to do that for a living. That's something I want to do. You know what I mean? But it was nothing in the childhood. There was never nobody in my family that said, hey, you want to be a doctor?
Yeah.
You want to be a lawyer? No. You either going to be construction, you know, own paper mill, own your own company, you know, or you're probably just going to float around and work for a plant or something like that doing shutdowns.
Right.
There was never no vision of, let's lay out this plan of what we're going to do. And that damn sure wasn't nothing about stock market or this, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you never had enough money to worry about the stock market, not in my family anyway. So that was never taught to me. It was never brought up. It was,
You don't know what you don't know in those situations
you don't
too.
know
you
what
know?
you don't. That's my favorite saying. You just don't know what you don't know.
Well, when you were in prison, how long did it take you to come to a place you're like, damn, I don't want to do this anymore? So when did you have that heart transplant, or what was the catalyst for that? And then how was your experience in prison? Like, how were the guards treating you? How'd that go from day one to, you did 12 years? How long did you do?
8.5 and 2.5.
Okay, so yeah, 10 years altogether. But yeah, so how was your experience in prison, and when did you decide, man, I got to do something a little bit different than what I'm doing?
I can tell you when it was. It was August 10th, 2010. They came, woke me up. I was in Win 3, about 2:30 in the morning.
You in Dugan?
Huh?
Dugan?
I think Dugan wasn't in there at the time, but he had just left. They come wake me up. They say, hey, you need to come to medical. I'm thinking, I ain't got but about 6-7 months left, so it's probably a drug test. You know what I mean? Something like that. So, all right, let's go. Go to medical, and they got a nurse there that's sitting there with a phone. And I'm from that area, so I pretty much know everybody that works at the prison or somebody in their family, right?
Yeah.
So I seen a lady, Carla Wheat, walk around the corner. Her dad used to be one of the wardens at our colonel at WCI. And when I seen her, she had the phone in her hand, and she said, hey, your niece wants to talk to you. So right then I knew it was something about my mom, because if it wasn't about my mom, then my mom would have been calling me if it would have been anything else, right? So they said my mom had she had polycystic kidney disease. They diagnosed her with over 125,000 cysts on her kidneys, and they started popping at a rate that she wasn't able to make it to the hospital yet. Her lungs filled up with fluid, ended up dying, right? That's the night everything changed, right? Because I didn't have a security blanket anymore. There was nothing left. You know what I mean? It was like me. Like I was with my wife my wife now at the time, but I didn't know if that was a serious thing. I knew my mom was a serious thing. Like, that was the only part of life that I'd ever had. It was always just me.
Forever family kind of a situation.
That's really the only people that hold you down when you're in prison, too.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. You find out exactly who loves you, who cares for you, and who wants the best for you. Not who just wants to be around you or who wants the best out of you, but who wants the best for you. You know what I mean? Yeah, I could say that changed my life forever that night. I remember waking up, getting on the phone with my wife, Kim, and she had already known. She talked to my family already, and they ended up letting me go to the funeral. She met me at the funeral, and I remember looking at her at the funeral, and I said, hey, it's only us now. I said, it's only me and you. As long as you give me what you got, I'll give you everything I got, I promise you. And she said, let's go. You know, I don't think she was at a great place in her life neither. She had just got divorced from a guy she had 2 kids with. You know what I mean? And then you're dating a guy that's in prison. You can't have
Trying to process all that.
Right. You know what I mean? So looking back, I'm like, okay, we were helping each other.
Yeah.
At the time, she's my savior. She's everything. You know what I mean? If not, I'm walking out with dungarees, some brogans, and a light blue shirt.
And for those of you who don't know what brogans are, they're the most uncomfortable work boot you can ever imagine wearing.
Yes, it is.
It's like walking on cellophane.
Exactly right. Yep. And so 6 months went by, and my due date comes up, 12:01. She's there. We go to the Westbank and never looked back since, bro. It's she's supported me wholeheartedly. Her
Your
family,
North Star.
Oh, her family supported me. I don't think my own family had ever believed in me and looked out for me the way hers had. You know, and that's maybe because they didn't know me, like the background yet, and that was probably a truly good thing at the time. But yeah, to feel and to see how the belief that they had in me and what they wanted for me, you know what I mean? It gave you that sense of I can't let these people down.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't. You know what I mean? I done let the one person that believed in me, that wanted the best for me my whole life, my mom, I done let her down. I couldn't let this one down. It was something about it. I couldn't let her down.
What year did you go home?
2011.
Okay. 2011.
March 25th, 2011.
How'd that feel? Did you cry when they heard it?
Yep.
I did too.
Yep.
I think everybody has
the door behind you clicking.
Oh,
or is that opening?
No, well, I know how to. I don't know about all the other prisons where I was released from. Same place he was released from. You go through the administration building, and they've got a door in the front, and that door, and then they've got a regular door.
And they search you on the way out. I never understood that. Never. This is like, what am I gonna
smuggle out of the prison that I didn't already get in here?
They want to make sure you didn't sneak any sporks out or something like that.
Dude, it was.
How do you know about sporks?
I've talked to a few people.
No, but yeah, dude, I mean, it's an exhilarating feeling.
It is,
because you, for the first time in 8-10 years or whatever, freaking freedom. All the things that. And I'm going to ask you this question because I've been asking everybody because I want to know. You sat in there all them years and you had conversations. I know you had conversations with yourself because I had a conversation of what we're going to tell people, what we're going to be like, what we're going to do in these situations. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
So then you get out and all the expectations of what world was supposed to be like for you, they don't quite happen exactly how we thought they would happen. None of them.
I mean, like, you're like practicing like what you're gonna like. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, you're out." You're like, "Man, it was rough in there, but I'm back, baby."
No, that, but like to a greater extent, it's like conversations you want to have with people, and some of it's like people that you like are beefing with, like how could you leave me during this time, or those types of things. And you actually, when you get out, you really don't even care anymore, or what you're gonna say to employers, or just there's so you
everything is just
365 times 8 or times 5 or times 3, even 2, whatever. Like, you're rehearsing what life is gonna be like on the outside because you only have a small window of that you remember what life is like, right? And most of it for guys like Jason and I, we were drugging and thugging. Some of it we don't even remember, like what actual life is like. We know what we thought it was like or what it was supposed to be like, but it's like, that's not reality.
Nah, man, you're sober now.
Dude, I was scared to fucking death. No shit. That is, if you asked me what the feeling was when I walked out, scared to fucking death. I'd never been scared of nothing before in my life. Like, I don't think I was scared when I walked into prison. Like, I'd been beat up before, been jumped before. I've had everything taken from me before. There wasn't much more you could do to me. Like, I wasn't. But when it was the other way, and that time came for me to walk out,
go back out,
scared to fucking death, dude.
Well, so what? I know, it's like 2000. You get locked up. 2000. What's happening? Freaking. I know, like what? Can't even think of, like, Nokia phones might have been a thing. You know,
it was
flat screen TVs haven't been invented yet. So whenever you walk out, people are beep 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 beep. Because 2010, iPhone's been out for a few. Wi-Fi, internet just coming out. Like, computers are smaller, TVs are huge.
Well, I had a little break because I had went to a work release.
Okay.
I was really good. I was pretty good at construction, bro. So when I was at the jail, they had a guard there, and he was opening up a work release. He knew I knew how to build metal buildings. So he came to me and he said, Jason, tell you what, you know you're going to be going to work release soon. I know you're going to go as soon as that date hits. He said, I'll make a deal with you. You help me get this metal building built, framed up. He said, when your date comes, that day, you'll be going to whatever work release closest to your family that you can go to, right? So I had a job set up.
Oh, you went with Miller?
What?
Who'd you go with?
Where?
You said the guy that was coming to talk to you.
Oh, Warden Wheat.
Okay.
Warden Wheat, they opened a Washington Parish work release out there. It wasn't too far from WCI.
Yeah.
It was the old blood bank center that they added onto. They added a metal building onto the blood bank and redid everything in it and put dorm rooms in there to where Washington Parish could have a work release to where they'd send the guys out and go to work, right? I didn't want to go to that one. I didn't want nothing to do with Washington Parish. What are you going to go do, rake a yard? I wanted to go somewhere where you could go get a job to where at least when you left there, you would have some stability to where you could have something
some type of skill set.
Where'd you go to Westbank or where'd you go?
No, I went to Slidell.
Oh, Slidell work release.
Ended up being the worst.
Isn't that where Warden Miller, though?
Yeah,
Miller.
Ended up going there.
And that's where Draperd went?
Yep.
Okay, you were there with Draperd?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Ended up being the worst thing for you? Why?
Well, no, it like after the years after I've left, I mean, they've had a bunch of shit going there with people stealing money, people doing a lot of things that, you know.
The whole premise behind work release, they steal your money.
Is it exactly
75% of your bread.
Dude, I was making $640 a week when I first started. They were taking $470. I mean,
and then you can't spend money until you stack up how much?
Mine was $3,000.
So you're at work release. And most people go to work release to try to stack some bread when they go home. But also a lot of people just don't have family support, right? So they go there. Now they can eat a little bit better because they can buy commissary.
Ooh, ramen.
Yeah. I mean, just different things and get out and da-da-da. But the work release takes, is it 75%?
Yep.
75% of your earnings. So let's just say you don't have a good job like Jason had. You're working at a local car wash making – if you on a good week at 40 hours, you might be making $250. There, you get to go home with $20 or $30 at the end of the week.
Well, if you made a certain amount of money, they would take up to 60%. If you made over a certain amount, they was charging you for the way to and from work. Even though they had to pick two people up right next door, they were all charging everybody the same route. So I mean, they were helping you, but they were helping themselves
more, yeah. And in commissary, most things are like Disney World prices too, right? It's not like 30 cents for ramen noodles, right? Or is it more expensive than that?
$1.
I don't remember. I don't remember anymore. But I know the rest of the stuff was a little bit more expensive than
what it typically would be. There's
like you get a can of tuna, 56 cents?
Mm-hmm.
$3.50
$3.50 in there. Certain stuff like that. But the work release, I think the premise of it's good, like the boot camp. It really is. But
Get you back in that groove.
It needs to be to help the offender rather than the people who's running the
fill the pockets. Or
yep.
Jason, our engineer / podcast extraordinaire / bald headed, good looking glasses wearing stud has a question. Jim, what was the question that you had?
So when you get released, and I know you were in a situation where you had someone there, but I'm sure a lot of people, maybe they don't have family or they don't have someone they're dating or a wife or anything like that. When they go out of that gate, do they just keep walking?
No, they take you to a bus station.
Gotcha.
They take you to a bus station, or they find a homeless shelter. If they know you don't have someone, then they find you a homeless shelter, and all this is done at your pre-release, 30 to 60 days ahead of your release date.
For those of those who couldn't hear Jim, he asked specifically, like, what happens to people if they don't have money or they don't have anything when they get released? Where do you go? What do you do? How does that process work? So, Jason, and I think the other question was, like, do people get released with money? I'm talking about at the state level, not guys like you that had $3,000 or however much you say to work with. I'm talking about on the general level, satellite camps and state prisons. When you leave out the door, how much money do you leave out there with?
$10.
$10. So I was wrong. I thought it was 20, but it's 10.
$10.
And that's if you're in the state prison. Satellite camps don't mail you them cards.
Nothing.
And the majority of people in the state of Louisiana, and by and large across the country, are in private jails and prisons.
Actually,
so you get out with nothing.
Actually, you have to pay, like if they send you with a bus ticket, they want you to pay that back when you go get your ID,
Taxes.
your license.
Yeah, they'll take it out of you.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. In order to get your license or ID, you have to pay that bus fee that they gave you to get to wherever you're going to get.
Yeah.
What about that work release money that you've been working for? How are they giving you that?
Well, see that work release money got sent home to help either Kim or my mom in the meantime. But I didn't go home from work release. Like I went home from the prison. There was so when I went to interview for my job offshore.
I was gonna ask you that because I had questions because you were at Rayburn with me and then you got released to go home. So I was trying to figure out when did you go to work release.
So I go to get my job offshore. I go to sign up for it. The sheriff brings me in. You know, I fill out my application. I got to go to orientation 3 days that week to learn all the stuff that they want me to learn for offshore. And on the second day, I see this chick working in a place that I'm applying for a job at, Art Catering offshore. And I said, you know, I've been locked up. I'm like, hey, girl, what's up? I'm like, let me get your phone number, you know?
Let me get them digits.
Yep. She said, I'm married. I said, I don't see no ring on your finger. I said, well, yeah, I just left it home. I said, well, you ain't happily married. I said, because if you was my wife, you'd never take that ring off.
I mean that.
And so she was like, if I ever see you again, I'll give you my number. I said, all right, well, whatever. So we leave that day. I got to come back for the third day of orientation, right? Get all my stuff to go offshore. I don't see her that day. I'm like, damn, I was that bad? She skipped work on me knowing I had to come back? Something happened. She had to take one of the kids to the doctor, so she came in late. So when I'm leaving to go get in the car, she's actually getting in her car leaving. And we pull out, and I see she's driving a maroon Yukon. Well, we get to the corner, and there's a store right there, and I tell the guard, I say, hey, can you pull in? Let me get a Red Bull or something. Well, I seen her pull in, so I jumped in.
Ulterior motives.
Exactly. So I go in, she's at the register, and I said, hey, you said if I ever see you again, you give me your phone number. And she turned around, and she said, okay, you got that one. So she gave me her phone number. We start talking, start going back and forth. She ends up kind of getting back with her husband, but I'm still calling and talking to her or whatever. So it must not have been too serious, right? So
usually Jody happens whenever the husband goes offshore, but Jody happened in this instance when you were offshore, so you were the Jody offshore.
Well, he was a piece of shit. So I mean, just straight up, I'm not gonna say that about too many people in life, but I mean, take it for what it's worth. He's a piece of shit.
It is what it is.
So see how it went. Oh, he answered the phone one day. They get in a big old fight. I go offshore.
Did you talk to him?
Oh yeah, he answered the phone. And used to give it to her. Like he would I'd be like, Kim there. He'd be like, so I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm allowed another dude to call my house and ask for my girl and just hand her the phone, right? So I'm like, something's right. Well, I mean, whatever.
Hey.
Granted, I didn't ask no questions. So I come home from offshore the next time, and I call, and he don't answer, right? So I'm like, damn, what's going on? She said, we busted up. We're not together no more. I said, well, that's great, right? So I go back offshore a couple more times. Well, she's got to schedule me to go offshore, so she calls the work release, right? And I kind of knew this, but I didn't know this, but I was wanting to know this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She scheduled me to go off a day earlier than what I'm supposed to go off, right? So I get dropped off at the heliport. She swings in, scoops me up, right?
Ooh.
Yeah. Conjugal visits.
I mean, it is what it is.
You don't got to explain. I get it.
That thing will make you do crazy things, especially after that long of a time. But,
I get it.
so she picks me up. We go have a great time, bro. We go to Harrah's, roll dice. I mean, we did it up that night.
New
bro.
Orleans Harris, huh?
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, we blew it up, bro. We get back in. I got to be at the heliport for 6 o'clock that morning, right? We get home like 1:30, 2 o'clock. You know, lay down, talk about our feelings or whatever. You know what I mean? And dude, somehow we fell asleep and woke up, and it's like 5:40, bro.
Son of a bitch.
Oh,
like,
man,
fuck.
you supposed to be at the helipad.
Here we go. Dude, I jump in. I'm not supposed to be driving. I'm doing 105 all the way to Houma.
Oh, from New Orleans to Houma?
I get there, and I'm like, I get there, and I think I'm safe. I'm like, all right, I'm good to go. But I didn't realize that the dude that I was relieving was supposed to go home the day before. So he'd been calling from the day before talking about where's my relief at. And they said, well, Jason's at the heliport.
Oh, no.
So I was already busted. So they came back. They came to the heliport, got me, ended up shipping me back to Raven for 6 months.
Hell yeah.
And that's where y'all met?
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, it was
So you were busted without even being late. Like you would have been there on time. They would have been like, nah.
it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Hey, true love
It
though.
was-
Love
it was-
finds a way.
It was just like, it was the perfect storm, dude. And after we talked about it for a while, I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe we needed this. You know what? Because I think if I would have got out exactly when I was supposed to get out, I don't think I'd have been in the same mindset as I was when I had to wait that extra 6 months. You know what I mean? I was kind of seeing what I was missing, you know? But yeah, that ended up getting shipped back. I had to do, I was supposed to get out in 6 months. I had to do another year. So
Okay. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, as they say. This is a romance comedy podcast.
Hey, she was a ride or die, bro. Let me tell you that.
Hey, let me ask you this, because I've seen a lot of guys like you come through. They were either banging guards at other prisons, or they had whatever drop they were on, they were doing guards, or they had a similar situation, work release, they were getting some, and then boom, they're getting taken from it. And they come to the prison, they're the most depressed little dogs ever.
Well,
they're so used to...
Well, I was there when your boy, I forget his name, but
Pat?
huh?
Who, Pat?
Yeah, the one that got beat up in the back in the block. You remember the guy that they beat bad for sleeping with the guard, Lieutenant Hunt.
Oh, at Hunt?
Yeah, no, at Rayburn. It was the guy. His aunt owned Razoo's, I think it was, and there was a big lawsuit over this and everything. But he was sleeping with the guard that worked the block, and.
I mean, they always. I mean, that was a common
was
occurrence. Everybody was doing them.
But he ended up getting caught. They beat the shit out of him pretty bad. He ended up suing them. He lost a testicle, all kind of shit.
Oh. That's the thing that people don't realize is like these are the untold stories that have like society does a great job on the media of painting these jails and prisons. Like you see the nice fancy dormitories, 2-story, and they got cameras everywhere, and there's a whole, and that's not every prison either. There's a whole nother segment of the prison population where it's just
grimy
tiers, and they have cells, and they have guards that'll come back there and beat the shit out of you.
Yep.
Leave you bloody. People die, and we've talked about this on other episodes, but like guys are dying at the hands of guards, and they get to write the paperwork.
Yes.
So if I was a guard and I just beat the shit out of somebody really bad and I knew I shouldn't have, I can pencil whip the hell out of that paperwork to make sure that I don't end up an inmate myself.
Yeah.
And that happens on a regular. And the other thing is this. You're paying these guys $9 or $10 an hour to work at these prisons. Most of them are uneducated. Not all. A lot of them. So they're no different than us other than their little uniform.
Lazy,
Lazy.
uneducated.
Overweight because they eat steak trays 3 times a day.
Their wife runs them ragged at home. They have no say-so whatsoever. That's 90% of them. They don't get to run nothing at home, so they want to come there and feel like they can tell grown men how to live their life and what
Or
to do.
females, in
because
that
you made a
matter.
mistake and got caught and they didn't. Oh, I've seen it several times. Now they got some guards there that I still talk to.
Yeah, me too.
Good
I
people.
mean, but they were good humans there,
Right.
And they're good humans now. But there's some that I can see on the street right
Big
now, and
Rick?
and I want to spit in your fucking face
Right.
because I know who you were. And don't portray that goody two shoes. Oh, I was always here to help you. Big Rick's a good one, man.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Biggest dude you will ever meet in your
He
life,
was a
bruh.
professional football player, huh?
Yeah, he played for Grambling, played for somebody in the NFL. But this dude,
He's like 6'8", and he's probably like 340 pounds.
he's probably about 400.
Yeah, and he walks around. He's just like he's a big old black guy, and he just walks around. He's like the biggest thing. So when he comes in, and he has one face, it's like this.
Yep.
It never changes. So you can't tell if he's being serious,
Nope.
or it's not, or he's like if he likes you or anything like that. It's one face,
But he was always straight up.
straight up.
He
with you.
never tried to. He never tried to build a case on you. He never said you did something you didn't do just because he was mad at you, or you didn't get off the walk in time when he was coming down the walker. No, he didn't have that arrogant, narcissistic personality. He knew who he was, and he knew what he was there to do. You know what I mean? And
Good dude.
good dude. But there's some of them that come there to do just the opposite, and that's the ones I got a real problem with because they could make a real difference in a lot of these younger kids' lives. Instead of sitting there wanting to go through their locker 25 times a day over a
25.
fucking razor blade that they were cutting hair with, over a picture that wasn't on their input form or something, on their intake form or something like that, or a headphone that's been soldered by somebody in the hobby shop.
fixing it because it broke.
Okay.
Because they don't have a family to send it back to them, and somebody had left it to them, and you're writing them up, and they're taking commissary and phone and your yard privileges for 6 months over this shit.
And they're just like going in there like ransacking their shit too, I'm assuming, huh? It's not just kind of like, let me see.
no.
It's maybe just like,
And you expect these guys not to have just a vicious vitriol for you.
yeah.
Well, you know what else they used to do?
Is that me?
I don't know. Somebody's phone must be going off. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah, keep that phone away from them boxes. The other thing that they do is like once or twice a year they'll get like all the DOC SWAT teams to go to each prison, and they literally come and destroy the dorms,
Yep.
right? So now the problem is now you set all these guys up who are thieves in an opportune time because they're usually the first ones to try to bust back in the door and they start stealing stuff. Now you've created beef because I know who the thieves are.
Everybody
You know who
knows.
the
Everybody
thieves are.
knows who the
So
thieves
now
are.
you're pinpointing them, and it's like in prison, if you know somebody stole something from you,
You ain't got a choice.
you have no choice but to bust them up.
Or they'll think you're a little bitch.
Correct.
Oh, no, you will be a little bit.
Oh, so it's not even like,
And ain't no thinking. No, because
oh, they're
everybody...
going to steal on you since everybody else does.
And then everybody who knows you didn't stick up for yourself, they don't want
coming
you.
to get a piece too.
You're not coming around us. If you were part of our clique before, you're not no more.
So it's just like you got to do it just to do it so it doesn't happen again.
It
that.
has to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the way of, and that's certain rules that it's a must.
And so what? The people that steal, and if everybody knows that you steal, these people just seem like they're always getting their ass whooped.
Well, I mean, they getting in fights.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of them can fight.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
the
but
way of-
here's the other thing, though. So a lot of the thieves and a lot of these guys who are so-called gangsters and hard in prison, they know who they can play with.
Yep.
So, like, strong-minded dudes, they're not going to go and jack their stuff.
Never
but
had
if you get a
nothing
new
stolen.
little, particularly, and this is unfortunate, how it just is what it is, new white guys that come to the compound. A lot, if they're young and they seem weak or whatever, they're going to try to steal from them. They're going to do all
You
that.
taking shots at me, Scott? You saying my stuff will get stolen, dude?
It probably would. You have to.
Well, I'm gonna know some gentlemen in there,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
No,
I'm
but-
buying a couple of cases of ramen for the boys. Make sure my shit don't get stolen.
You better purchase some roast beef.
There you go. I didn't know it was for sale. We got it. We got it coming.
That ramen
No,
ain't
but
gonna
I
get
mean
you
that's
nothing.
just how it is. Like new dudes rolling a dorm and dudes
Yeah.
just sizing them up as they're walking down the dorm.
You can just tell. All you're doing is sitting in solid, like around people, and you're just sizing them up the entire day. So when someone new comes along, you're like, this
people who
motherfucker.
come in and they're overly talkative, like just trying to be friends with everybody, they're gonna get stolen from. They're gonna get some pipe in the back or whatever.
Mr. Friendly.
Mr. Friendly Bob.
Pipe in the back means had sex with.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
nope.
then or they're gonna get stolen from, or they're gonna be controlled as like they're gonna be called son. Come here, son. Say son.
Or pulled on or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In the shower. This is how else they test them. They'll let them get in the dorm, friendly Bob with everybody for a couple of days. One of the booty bandits just sitting back like a lion in his kingdom, waiting for a little gazelle to come through. They get pounced on, right? So the little young white boy comes in and he's making friends with everybody. He's got all his brand new white boxers, brand new tank tops. I mean, he's doing it penitentiary rich. His mom and daddy send him money. Blah 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 blah.
And that's how they know.
And that's how they know. So then the booty bandits sit in the back on their bed and they're like, all right, today's the day I'm going to pull on this little kid.
I'm going to try him. And as soon as you go get in that shower,
and hopefully somebody has told you, do not face the wall.
Well, your first day in prison, you're probably like wondering, damn, should I go? If you come from a real parish jail, then you probably know the rules already. But if not, you probably wait until everybody goes to chow. And then you're going to try to jump in that shower real quick. And then you got the JOA, the king of the JOA.
Because they stay back.
They
do all their dirt while everybody's at the dorm.
Yep.
They have sex with their punks or they jack off on a free lady. Whatever. Steal, yep.
Whatever it is. But when that little new dude gets in that shower, he's going to go walk over there and get in that shower with him. And
start conversation.
And then before you know it, rocked up on him. And before you know it, he's stroking it on him. And the dude's just all wide-eyed.
So he don't know what to do. So now everybody knows that he's in the shower with the guy who jacks off on everybody. So there's a line set. Either he has to handle his business, which in most cases it won't happen, and now he's opened himself to a world of just sexual abuse.
Yes, it is.
What happens.
Exactly. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, crazy.
Like I knew the game to that point because like I said, I had a dad and two other little cousins that been in jail since they were 16 years old, and so they gave me the game when I got there, but. For the ones that don't know, when you walk into that prison, so if you're a little young man and you're watching this and you're fixing to go to court and get you some time, when you walk in that dorm and that guy says, hey, bring your pictures over. Come sit on the bed. Mm-hmm. Just be very suspicious of that.
You're being
Don't
groomed.
sit on nobody's bed. Just eliminate the whole thing. If a dude invites you to his space, say, bank check. I'm good. I'm good. I don't really show my pictures. I ain't got no pictures.
That's it. Because either they want to take one of your pictures and probably pull on your wife or your girlfriend.
Then you got to kill them.
Or they're going to ask you, hey, that's your sister? Let me write your sister. And then you really feel disrespected. So
the best thing you can do is just stay to yourself.
Yep.
And here's the other thing. If somebody's overly ambitious about helping you out when you get to the dorm, don't mess with them.
They're trying to fuck.
I'm good.
Especially if you don't know them.
I don't eat that. Nope. I'm good.
I'm good, buddy. I'll handle it whenever my money comes in.
I didn't know there was that many rules that you better know, because there's one of them that can change your whole Jose around really quickly.
Jose.
Really quickly.
Basically, do something anytime something comes up to avoid that thing happening.
Nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
Right
consistently. Because it will happen consistently.
And what is it, like every quarter you might have to be tested again too? Like, okay, well.
Shit, it might happen every day for 6 months.
Yeah.
You might have to, when I first got in there, dude, it's bullshit every day after every day. And you either going to fight for respect or you're going to handle your business or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like a lot of, and I said this the other day, like white dudes, when they go to prison or jail, they have it harder in the beginning because everybody just assumes that you're weak. And it's unfortunate because, like, I grew up and I had a lot of black friends on the streets and stuff like that. It's completely different than it's white versus black. We talked about gangs the other day. But it's not, I'm not going to sit here and say that all of the black guys in prison do this to white people, but there is a group of people in there who just, that's the way they were raised. It's just like racist white people.
Yeah.
They go in there and they look at black people and they think they're weak and they're going to try to do whatever. Same mindset.
It would be like a little more extreme version of the basketball court. It's like, oh, white dude on a basketball court.
Right.
This motherfucker can't even hoop.
Yeah.
But in the jailhouse, it's like, oh, this dude's weak as hell.
Yeah,
So you have to prove yourself.
Yep. Exactly. Every day. The biggest, I guess, I got my ass whooped first week I was there just because I thought a dude was disrespecting me, and I knew that it
Had to be done.
Yeah, but he really wasn't disrespecting me. I just took it as a sign of disrespect because I was a fresh fish, and I was looking for reasons to be not disrespected. Right. I'm gonna have to stand up for myself. I knew it was coming. I had my stuff sitting on the bench, and dude came in and just kind of moved my stuff over, and he was like, "Bro, I was sitting here, I was just warming my stuff up." I was like, "You ain't fucking moving my shit," and I just went and put my shoes on and punched him in the mouth. And I ain't never been beat that bad. Come to find out, he was a Gold Glove boxer for 12 years at Angola.
And they do that type of stuff because they know what comes next with it. They're probably going to beat the dude up.
But, I mean, and the dude worked in the infirmary. Like, he sent me to the infirmary, dude. I was bust up. My nose was broke. I mean, both black eyes. Dude ended up working in the infirmary. Like, I woke up the next day. Well, I mean, I woke up that day, but I went to sleep that night, woke up in the infirmary before they shipped me to the block. First person to come check on me was the dude that punched
busted
me.
you up and then patched you up kind of situation.
He was kind of like, hey.
But y'all was cool after that.
Cool as a fan.
Yeah.
Cool as a fan. Ended up, actually, I still write him. Antoine. Yep. But, I mean, yeah, he knew what it was. He knew it had to be.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I felt disrespect. He wasn't, but I felt that way. So I was like, hey, I guess this is what it is. But.
Yeah, but you almost have to do some make a statement like that.
And a lot of people used every excuse not to. I got a good bed. I don't want to lose my bed. I like my dorm.
I don't want to lose my visits.
I don't want to lose my visits. But your life is going to be a whole lot harder than them couple visits or that good bed you got by the window.
I had that mindset towards the end of my jokes. Like I say that I intentionally avoided a lot of stuff, so I didn't have to be tested in those ways because I wanted to go home. I liked my drop. I liked my visits.
Yep.
So you
avoid the bullshit.
Yeah, you avoid it. You know what I mean? And then you can get to where you move on a good yard where you don't have to deal with that all the time.
Yep.
If you're just living on wind yard or any yard that's like wind yard, which is the wild yard, you're just tested.
My favorite one is when I got moved. I wasn't even religious, dude. I'm far from the religious person, spiritual
faith based.
Yeah, I got moved to like my last 2.5 months. I got moved to the faith based dorm. Dude, that was the greatest dorm I've ever been in my life. I mean, laid back. Nobody fooled with nobody. Nobody wanted to leave that yard.
Jesus was in the building.
Whatever you want to call it, but nobody was messing with nobody. You know what I mean? And then you start to talk to the people and these are the old convicts, the ones that's been down 25, 30, 40 years, like Mr. Arthur.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
the only thing left is Jesus, you know?
You got the ones that can fake it until they make it, and then you got the ones like Arthur. That's real deal. Real deal. I mean,
that's the one I was telling you about the other day who would live in Wynyard.
What he did, 30, 40 years?
Yeah, and he was a staple in there. Nobody messed with him.
No, but even the guards respected him.
Oh, yeah.
And if you watch the way he went about himself and you kind of followed his path, like he didn't fool with nobody. He didn't gamble. He didn't mess with punks. He didn't, he wasn't in the TV room all the time.
Prayer circle in the middle of the jungle.
Oh yeah, he was the one leading the prayer circle. I mean, he was the type of guy you wanted to look up to in there. It's like, all right, you know what? You knew that guy was going to make it when he got out. Like, there's a handful of guys that I knew was not coming back when they got out. Draper Bedford was one of them. I didn't feel like he was going to come back. Now there's 99 others that I thought was going to come back, and probably 85 of them did. Yeah. I didn't know if I would. It would have been so long in that mindset. What else do you know? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you go at such a young age, and people, like I say this all the time, people don't believe me. When you go into prison, that's where your maturity and mindset kind of stops.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No shit. Like, your taste of music, your educational, everything kind of stops, and then you want to pick it back up when you get out. And I think that's where a lot of people make a mistake, is because you can't replace that time. You need to use that time to mature and come out and say, you know what, I need to go with something different than I was doing before. But we don't think like that. I still wanted to wear the same clothes as when I got out. Like, I still wanted to go get me a pair of Reebok Classics. I don't even think I own a fucking pair of tennis shoes now, to tell you the truth. But it was that mindset that I wanted to catch up or replace that time
nostalgia
that everybody
kind of
else got from 24 to whatever.
Yeah.
Speaking of release, because we're almost out of time, tell me what your greatest challenge was coming home in a short synopsis of that, and then I want you to tell everybody what you're doing today.
My biggest challenge was learning how to be in a relationship, learning how to be loyal, trustworthy, be a father to 2 kids, be a role model that I never had. That was my biggest thing. My biggest thing was I wanted to break the chain. Like everybody in my family that had went to prison, it was their kid had went to prison also. I wanted to break that chain for my kid. I didn't, like, my kids just now hearing about my prison stint. You know what I mean? Because they were young enough when I got out that they didn't have to hear it then. They didn't need to know then. And it's just now that I'm explaining to them to kind of, so they can get a overall view of what the hell went on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want somebody else to tell them, this was your dad. I want to tell them, hey, this was it. This is what I was doing. This is what caused it. And this is what I did to avoid going back to that lifestyle. That was my biggest challenge.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. So tell them about, you're the first person I know that's done this, though, which is pretty remarkable, but tell them what you do today for work.
I'm the district utility specialist and railroad coordinator for the state of Louisiana. I oversee 7 parishes. I relocate all utilities design-wise. I do all railroad projects in 7 parishes: Lafourche, Terrebonne, St. Charles, Plaquemines, Orleans, Jefferson, and St. Bernard.
Damn.
So what happens is when a project comes out, so I'll tell you about one of the biggest ones that we had. The Leesville to Golden Meadow. We're building an 8.3-mile bridge that's going to go from Leesville to Golden Meadow. That's going to replace the old Highway 1 to get to Grand Isle, right? So we spend about $5 million every storm or every bad storm that comes in that washes the road away. We have to do repairs, maintenance, utility work, all of that stuff. So we've decided to just take the money with the port putting up $250 million, the state's matching, the federal government putting up the rest. We're building an 8.3-mile bridge. So my job is they send me the plans, I review the plans, and I say, okay, to build this bridge, we got to relocate these 16 pipelines. I get in touch with the 16 pipelines, whether they're Chevron or smaller Atmos or whoever it is. We go to them and I say, hey, what's it going to take for you to relocate? They tell me, well, look, we've been here 30 years, so you're going to have to pay for me to relocate. So what? We get our land documents together. We design for them to get out the way to make sure, or we redesign the project to make sure the piles are not being drove in that pipeline. And on a regular project, it's basically the same thing. So I don't know if too many people know this, but there's your roadway and then there's your right-of-way, right? Your right-of-way is your state-owned, parish-owned, or federally owned land, right? That we allow utilities to put their utility in for communications, electricity, gas, sewer, water, all of that, right? All of that's right on the side of your roadway. So whenever you go to expand that roadway, you have to relocate all those utilities. It's a massive amount of money. It's a massive business. And ever since all this communication came about with fiber optic, copper, and all of this stuff, AT&T, Verizon, I mean, there's so many nowadays. It looks like spaghetti in your roadway. So it's a big business. It really is. I didn't know nothing about utilities 5 years ago. I was given a shot. I was just in construction, building roadways, bridges, stuff like that, being an inspector, project management. And this position came open, and it allowed me a broad stance of everything, to get to see the funding part of it, to where we get the money, what kind of funding source it is to produce that funding. You get to see the design phase. You get to see the acquiring of right-of-way and the land purchasing part of it. And then you get to see the actual construction. And then there's what's called the as-built, is when you go back in and you say, okay, this is what was designed, but now this is what was actually built. We changed this, we changed this, we changed this. So I get to see the whole broad spectrum of the 6 phases of building a roadway and a bridge.
Tell everybody what you got coming up in February.
So I'm going to take a project management and engineering test, try to be an engineer.
Oh, working on the railroad.
If that's what you want. Driving trains.
Driving trains.
Caboose engineer.
Yeah.
Choo-choo.
That's awesome.
No, that's cool, man. I always go ahead.
But let me say this. I do want to get this out before this project ends. If you want to do something in life, anything can be done. I don't care who you are, what you've been through. If you think, I've been through this and people ain't going to understand, the best people are always the ones who've been through something and persevered, right? And the biggest part of that is finding someone who believes in you just as much, if not more, than you believe in yourself. And I honestly believe I found that when I found my wife. She's pushed me. She's motivated me, whether it's through her weight loss, and she's a freaking stallion, dude. I'm talking about. I'm a lucky man, really am.
Pretty girl. He married up.
So, big time up, like way up.
We all do. We all do.
So, when you find that, and you find that person that loves you and want to see your growth, and not only and is able to take some of your stumbles and some of your falls, but when you do stumble, she's the one that's there saying, "Get the fuck up. What is wrong with you? This ain't who you are. You know, this is not who we are. If we're gonna be a super couple, you got to get the fuck off the emotional thing and let's get this done."
Yeah.
You know, and that's exactly. I didn't need that. I didn't need that person that says, "Oh, baby, it's gonna be all right.
Okay.
Oh, no, we gonna get it. Oh, we'll try it again later." No. My wife is like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? You didn't see that coming, you fucking idiot." And that's what I need, because if you cater to me, I will
use you. Yeah.
Walk all over you.
Yeah.
She ain't about that. She's about, hey, let's fucking get this done and get it over with. And she's the best mom you will ever see for a kid. And it showed me what parents are supposed to be.
Let's go. Good women out there. Let's go.
That's it. For sure. For 100%. Find you a good woman that believes in you.
Yeah. Amen.
You know?
Well, Jason, I appreciate you coming.
Yep.
Always enjoy it. We'll have to do a round 2 eventually.
Got to.
Please do.
Well, after you get that engineering.
Please do.
Yeah.
Is it
follow
a
up.
certification or license?
Everything.
Everything.
So I went into business with a buddy of mine. He's already a licensed engineer. We own 2B Engineering. So we do consultations, elevation certificates for flood insurance, site plans, driveways, permits.
Where's your market? Where do you work? Everywhere?
Everywhere. Mainly south of the lake, New Orleans area. But, I mean, if the money's right, we'll go anywhere.
There you go. South of the lake, New Orleans area.
He's staying.
That's it. 2B Engineering.
2B Engineering.
2B, is it 2 the number and then B the letter?
Yep.
2B Engineering,
That's
everybody. Holla at my boy.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, man.
Thank y'all for having me, guys. I really
See
appreciate
y'all
it.
next time.
Yep.